right, so are you ready for this? We are diving deep today into some seriously interesting stuff.
Oh, I'm ready.
Have you ever, stopped and wondered what's really going on at Area 51? I mean, beyond all the usual stuff you hear.
Like the aliens and UFOs?
Yeah, exactly. Although,
The conspiracy theories.
what's really lurking in those top secret labs?
Yeah.
What are they hiding?
Yeah, it's a good question.
So today's deep dive, you guys, tackles a pretty crazy idea.
Oh, really?
A possible connection between Area 51 research and, wait for it,
Okay, I'm waiting.
a zombie apocalypse.
Whoa! Okay, hold on. A zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is.
Sounds like something straight out of, like a movie or something.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
A sci-fi movie, for sure.
It totally does.
But the thing is, the source material that we are using for this deep dive comes from a podcast episode, and it features an interview with a supposed former Area 51 researcher.
Okay.
This guy, Dr. Richard Hayes.
Wow, Dr. Richard Hayes.
He claims to have spent over 2 decades working on classified projects at Area 51.
Okay.
So let me tell you, his story is anything but normal.
I bet. So this Dr. Hayes is saying that Area 51, it's not just about little green men and,
experimental aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
He claims that they're researching all this crazy stuff.
Like what?
Like advanced materials, he calls it, and biological entities. Unlike anything we've ever seen on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah. He even talks about these beings they've recovered.
Beings?
Yeah, beings in cryogenic stasis.
Really?
Yeah. Suggesting some seriously mind-blowing bioengineering.
I mean, that's pretty wild, right? Like, when we hear advanced materials, I immediately think of things like, super strong alloys or, self-healing polymers.
Right.
But Dr. Hayes is implying something way beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
Could we be talking about materials that can actually, manipulate gravity or, defy our current understanding of physics?
It's pretty hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what about these bioengineered beings?
Yeah, what about them? Are we talking about, creatures with abilities that just seem like superhuman?
It makes you wonder what the limits of science really are.
I know, it's kind of scary to think about.
It is.
How far can we really go with science?
Yeah. And is there a line?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but hold on tight because it's about to get even crazier.
Okay.
So Dr. Hayes is claiming that some of the research they were doing at Area 51 involved integrating alien genetic material.
Wait, alien?
Alien.
Oh, wow.
Into human biology.
Seriously? They were mixing alien DNA with humans.
That's what he's saying.
What were they trying to do? Make a superhuman army or something?
He claims that the goal wasn't to create a superhuman army.
Okay.
But rather to enhance human survival.
Oh, so it was for a good cause.
That's what he's saying, yeah. Yeah, but you know what they say about good intentions, right?
Yeah, good intentions.
Sometimes they don't.
Don't always work out so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Hayes, he paints a really grim picture of what happened with this research.
Okay, what happened?
He describes these test subjects, and they were exhibiting really erratic and violent behavior.
Oh.
Their neural systems were going completely haywire.
Oh, my God.
He even uses the term zombie-like.
No way. He actually says zombie-like.
He does.
So are we talking flesh-eating hordes here?
Well, I'm not saying that it's exactly like what we see in movies.
Okay.
But it does make you think about, the potential consequences.
Right.
When we start messing with the fundamental building blocks of life.
Oh, absolutely. It's like opening Pandora's box,
Yeah.
You start messing with things you don't understand.
And who knows what could happen.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what might crawl out.
So where does the zombie apocalypse come in all of this? Where's the connection?
Okay, so Dr. Hayes believes that the research at Area 51 suggests a zombie apocalypse isn't just a Hollywood fantasy. He draws parallels between the effects of things like rabies.
Rabies? Okay.
And a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii.
Toxoplasma gondii.
Yeah. Both of those can cause behavioral changes in their hosts.
Like what kind of changes?
Well, things like increased aggression and impaired brain function.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can kind of see where he's going with this.
Okay, I see where he's going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rabies is already scary enough as it is.
Oh, for sure.
But imagine a virus, maybe one that was, accidentally or intentionally engineered.
Oh, gosh.
That spreads even faster than rabies and has, even more drastic effects on the brain.
Man, that's nightmare fuel.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
That's enough to give you nightmares?
I mean, it's definitely unsettling to think about.
It is.
But we have to remember to take a step back and actually look at the science.
Right.
So like rabies, for example,
Yeah.
that causes aggression. It's true.
Yeah.
But it's transmitted through like bites or scratches.
Yeah.
It's not through airborne particles like you see in a lot of fictional zombie viruses.
Okay, right.
And then Toxoplasma gondii,
Yeah.
while it can manipulate its host's behavior,
Right.
it's a parasite.
Not a virus.
Not a virus, exactly.
Okay.
And it has a very specific life cycle.
Hmm.
So it's not as simple as like a virus just turning everyone into zombies.
So are you saying that a full-blown, like Hollywood-style zombie apocalypse is unlikely?
I'd say it's probably a bit more nuanced than what we see in movies.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we should just like ignore the dangers
Of what?
of, emerging infectious diseases,
Right.
especially ones that could have a serious impact on the brain.
Yeah, and I think
COVID-19.
that was a really good example
Yeah.
of how quickly things can change.
Right. Before COVID-19, most people never thought a virus could like literally bring the world to a standstill.
Yeah. It's a chilling thought
It is.
to think about how quickly a virus can spread and how fear and misinformation can just make everything so much worse.
Oh, absolutely. It just amplifies the chaos.
But okay, before we all run out and start stockpiling canned goods and building those zombie-proof fences,
Right.
let's go back to Dr. Hayes
Okay.
and what he has to say.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just warn about the zombie apocalypse potential. He also talks about how important it is that we learn from something.
Learn from what?
You ready for this? Zombie movies.
Zombie movies. Learn from zombie movies.
Oh, no.
That's interesting.
It sounds strange.
It does sound a little strange.
But I think he actually makes a really good point.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about some of those classic zombie movies like 28 Days Later.
Or 28 Days Later, okay.
Or Train to Busan.
Oh, yeah, Train to Busan. That's a good one.
They show us in a really vivid way
They do.
how quickly society can break down
Right.
when we're faced with a terrifying outbreak like that.
Right, it all just falls apart.
Yeah, it does.
Really quickly.
And even though those are fictional stories,
Yeah.
they raise some really important questions
They do.
about how we behave in a crisis.
Yeah, about human behavior under extreme pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what would we do? How would we react?
Yeah, it makes you think.
It does.
It's like, would you panic?
Yeah.
Would you try to help others? Or would you just focus on surviving no matter what?
I always wonder watching those movies how I would react.
Right, me too.
Yeah.
It's scary to think about
It is.
what you would really do in that situation.
Yeah, what choices would you make?
And Dr. Hayes suggests that we can look at these movies as cautionary tales.
Okay.
They highlight how fear and mistrust and the scarcity of resources can tear society apart.
Even faster than a virus could.
Even faster than any virus could. Yeah, it's like those things are just as dangerous as the virus itself.
So what are we supposed to do with all of this information? Should we all become preppers?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily about building a bunker and stocking up on weapons like those doomsday preppers you see on TV.
Right.
But Dr. Hayes does emphasize that we all need to be prepared.
Prepared for what? Like any kind of crisis or just a zombie apocalypse?
For anything, really.
Right.
He says there's a lot we can learn from people who already take preparedness seriously.
Like who? Survivalists and preppers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it.
Okay.
A lot of the things they do to prepare for a major collapse of society would also be really helpful in more common disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes or even just a power outage that lasts a long time.
So you're saying that prepping for a zombie apocalypse could actually make me better prepared for like real world emergencies.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about being prepared for the unexpected.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what kind of things does Dr. Hayes recommend? Like what should we be doing to prepare?
Well, he really stresses having a plan.
A plan? Like what kind of plan?
Well, things like knowing your evacuation routes, having a designated meeting place for your family if you get separated, and understanding how to access emergency services if they're still functioning.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about supplies? Like how much food and water do you really need to have?
He recommends having at least a 2-week supply of food, water, and any essential medications.
2 weeks, okay.
Yeah, think about things like canned goods, dried fruits, nuts, non-perishable stuff.
Right, right.
And don't forget about hygiene
Like
supplies.
soap and hand sanitizer?
Exactly, and toilet paper.
Yeah, toilet paper. I still have nightmares about the great toilet paper shortage of 2020.
Oh man, that was crazy.
It's crazy to think about how something so basic
I know.
could suddenly become so valuable.
It really shows how unpredictable things can be.
So supplies are important, but Dr. Hayes also talks about the importance of being mentally and emotionally prepared.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what does that mean? Like building up a tolerance for zombie guts?
Huh, not quite. It's more about developing coping mechanisms for stress and uncertainty and fear.
Oh, okay.
Things like practicing mindfulness techniques, staying connected with loved ones, finding ways to stay active and engaged. These things can make a huge difference in how you handle a crisis.
Yeah, that's true. I know, I tend to like freak out a little bit
Oh, me.
when things get stressful.
Yeah,
So maybe I should look into those mindfulness techniques.
might be helpful.
But seriously, though, if society really did break down like we see in zombie movies,
Yeah.
wouldn't we need more than just 2 weeks of supplies and some deep breathing exercises?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Dr. Hayes also talks about how important community is.
Feel unity.
Yeah, like having a group of people you can trust and rely on and work with.
Okay, that makes sense. So going it alone is probably not the best strategy.
Definitely not.
I guess that's why those prepper communities are always so focused on, like, being self-sufficient and having a strong group.
Yeah, they understand that you need people to survive.
But even with a good group,
Mhm.
wouldn't you also need, like, some serious survival skills to make it in a post-apocalyptic world?
You're right. Things like first aid, fire starting, shelter building, self-defense, those could become essential.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't forget about stuff like gardening and basic mechanics.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Yeah.
Knowing how to grow your own food or fix a generator could be pretty handy.
Oh, absolutely. It could literally mean the difference between life and death.
Okay, so I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed here.
I get it.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Like, where do we even begin?
Well, the good news is that you don't have to become a hardcore survivalist overnight.
Okay, that's good to hear.
You can just start small, build a basic emergency kit,
Okay.
learn a new skill, connect with your neighbors. Every step you take towards being more prepared is a step in the right direction.
That makes sense. And who knows, maybe prepping for a zombie apocalypse will actually make us better prepared for the real challenges that we face in the world today.
It's very possible.
It's all about being resilient, adaptable, and most importantly, connected to the people around us.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to live in fear.
Right.
It's to empower ourselves with knowledge and skills so we can navigate whatever the future throws at us.
Yeah, I like that. Because whether it's a natural disaster, a pandemic, or who knows, maybe even a zombie outbreak,
Yeah.
being prepared can make all the difference.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. It's been a wild ride so far.
It really has.
But what I find so interesting about Dr. Hayes' story
Yeah.
is what it tells us about the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. He's saying that the government is doing all this top secret research
Right.
on alien technology and maybe even messing with human biology.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
And if even half of what he's saying is true,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder what else is going on that we don't know about.
Right. Like, what other secrets are they hiding?
Yeah, exactly.
It raises some pretty big questions.
Like what?
Government secrecy
That-
and the limits of what we're allowed to know.
Like, are there other projects out there that we can't even imagine?
It's a scary thought.
It is.
And who gets to decide what we know and what we don't know?
Exactly. It's about power and control.
It's like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
Right.
But Dr. Hayes is saying, this is real life.
Which makes you think twice about everything you read and hear,
Yeah.
especially when it comes from, like, official sources.
So where does all of this leave us?
Well, I think the big takeaway here is that we need to be critical thinkers.
Okay.
We can't just blindly accept what we're told.
Right.
We need to question things.
Question everything.
Yeah, pretty much, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to something as extraordinary as this.
So should we be prepping for a zombie apocalypse?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
That's
I mean, we always encourage our listeners to think for themselves
Of course.
and draw their own conclusions.
Right.
But it's important to remember that Dr. Hayes' claims haven't been verified.
So we need to approach this with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But even if we don't believe everything he says,
Yeah.
his story has given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
It's like a journey into the unknown.
Exploring the line between science fiction and conspiracy theories?
and the possibility of both amazing scientific breakthroughs and terrifying disasters.
Exactly.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
And I think it's a good reminder
Yeah.
that no matter how much we think we know,
Right.
there's always more to learn and discover.
Always.
And in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable and uncertain,
Yeah, it
the
does.
best thing we can do is stay curious.
Absolutely.
Stay informed,
And maybe keep a few extra cans of beans in the pantry.
just in case.
You never know.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The potential for a zombie apocalypse,
Right.
the science behind it,
Hmm.
and even how to prepare for something like that.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
But you know what really sticks with me?
What's that?
It's what Dr. Hayes said about zombie movies.
Oh, yeah. How they can teach us something.
Exactly. It made me think about how we often dismiss things as just entertainment
Right.
when they might actually have some deeper meaning or a message.
Mm.
Like those zombie movies, they're not just about gore and scares.
They show us what could happen.
Yeah, if our fears and our instincts take over.
If we let panic and chaos rule.
Right. And it makes you wonder
Yeah.
how we would really react in a situation like that.
Would we be the hero or the villain?
Or just a survivor.
I guess we'll never know until we're faced with it.
But maybe that's the point. Maybe these stories are meant to make us think.
Make us question.
Yeah, and prepare us mentally and emotionally for whatever might come our way.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just about surviving a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
It's about surviving as humans.
In any kind of crisis.
Exactly. It's about holding on to our humanity even when everything around us is falling apart.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, I think so.
We've gone from Area 51 to a zombie apocalypse to the very nature of humanity.
It's been a journey.
It has. And we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
We've explored some wild ideas today.
We have.
But we always encourage you to think for yourself.
To question everything.
And to draw your own conclusions.
Because ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide what we believe.
And how we want to face the future.
So deep divers, that's a wrap on our exploration of Area 51 and the zombie apocalypse. Thanks for joining us.
And remember, stay curious.
And stay safe out there.